The Honda Goldwing is not what it used to be. Not because the bike got worse, the bike is still extraordinary, but because the rest of the touring market finally stopped flinching every time Honda released a new model. For roughly 2 decades, the Goldwing sat at the top of the segment by default. Nobody else built a six-cylinder. Nobody else had the DCT. Nobody else had Honda's dealer network or Honda's reputation for never breaking. So Honda charged what Honda wanted to charge, and the rest of the segment competed for second place. That arrangement is over. In 2026, there are at least 4 motorcycles on American showroom floors that beat the Goldwing at its own game, in specific categories, and most of them cost less. One of them strips $8,000 off the Goldwing's asking price. Another one matches Honda's six-cylinder smoothness for thousands less. A third is a full American luxury tourer that delivers more torque than the Goldwing for nearly the same money. And the fourth bike on this list, the one I'll show you near the end, is the bike that's quietly pulling the most direct Goldwing trade-ins of any model in the segment. So, by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly when the Goldwing is still the right answer in 2026. And when paying that $30,500 sticker is just paying for a badge that the market has already started discounting on the resale lot. Let's set the baseline. The 2026 Honda Goldwing Tour DCT carries an MSRP of $30,500. Add the airbag option, and the trim climbs to $33,800. The base Goldwing automatic DCT without the trunk is $26,500. The engine is Honda's legendary 1833cc horizontally opposed six-cylinder, refined across nearly 5 decades of continuous production, mated to a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission with an overdrive 7th gear engineered specifically for highway cruising. Honda has been refining the DCT in its motorcycle lineup since 2010, and on the Goldwing, it works with a refinement most riders never appreciate until they switch back to a clutch lever. Curb weight on the Tour DCT is 806 pounds. Front suspension is the brand's signature double wishbone design, the engineering oddity that lets Honda push the engine and the rider closer to the front wheel, which is why a bike this heavy feels like a sport tourer once it's rolling. The trunk holds 61 liters, which is enough for 2 full-face helmets. Electric reverse is standard on every DCT trim. Walking mode lets you crete forward or backward under power at a walking pace, which is the small detail that sells a Goldwing to a rider who's dropped a fully loaded touring bike in a gas station parking lot. Hill start assist, Honda selectable torque control, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, 4 ride modes, Tour, Sport, Rain, and Econ. It is a beautifully engineered machine. But beautiful engineering is exactly what the competition has decided to attack. So if you've spent the last year considering a Goldwing and you're starting to feel the sticker shock, the next bike on this list is the one that's going to make you question whether the Honda is actually delivering more or just charging more for the same touring promise. Rival number 1, Indian Pursuit Limited. Indian Motorcycle has been quietly waging war on the Goldwing since the Pursuit launched in 2022. And in 2026, the math is finally hard to ignore. The 2026 Indian Pursuit Limited carries an MSRP of $32,499, which sits between the standard Goldwing Tour DCT and the Tour Airbag DCT. But here's where the conversation shifts. Under the fairing, you get the 1,768cc liquid-cooled Power Plus V-twin, producing 122 horsepower and 128 pound-feet of torque at 3,800 RPM. That's more torque than the Goldwing delivers from its six-cylinder. And if you spec the Pursuit Dark Horse 112, the larger 1,834cc Power Plus 112 engine pushes that to 126 horsepower and 133 pound-feet of torque, both numbers above the Goldwing. So what happens when a touring bike with American V-twin character, chassis-mounted fairing, fully electronically adjustable rear shock from Fox, heated grips, the optional Clima Command heated and cooled seat for both rider and passenger, 7-inch Ride Command touchscreen with Apple CarPlay built in undercuts the airbag-equipped Goldwing by $1,300 and gives you more torque on top? Is that the badge premium you were paying for? Or was it just inertia? The Power Plus engine, by the way, is the same architecture that won 3 Moto America King of the Baggers championships. It is a racing-developed American liquid-cooled V-twin sitting inside what is otherwise a full luxury tourer. Smart lean technology with a 6-axis Bosch IMU gives you lean-sensitive traction control and lean-sensitive ABS. 3 ride modes, rain, standard, and sport, let you actually shape the bike's personality on a long route. Rear cylinder deactivation kills the rear pod at idle to manage heat in stop-and-go traffic, which is exactly the kind of feature Goldwing owners ask Honda for and don't get. The Pursuit Limited also includes the Rider Assist package as standard, blind spot warning, rear collision warning, bike hold control, tailgate warning, electronically linked brakes, features that are still optional on a base Goldwing. So if you're shopping a tourer for the Iron Butt Rally next year, or for the Tail of the Dragon in October, why are you paying premium money for a bike that lacks features the competition delivers as standard? The Goldwing is clinical. The Pursuit is alive. The bike has its own character, its own sound, its own personality on a long highway pull through Arizona. And that personality is exactly what the Goldwing has been criticized for sanitizing. And the next bike on this list takes a completely different approach to the same problem. It doesn't try to out-American the Honda. It tries to out-German it. Rival number 2, BMW K1600 GT. If smoothness was the Goldwing's religion, BMW built the church next door. The 2026 BMW K1600 GT carries an MSRP of $26,885. That's $3,615 less than the Goldwing Tour DCT. And you're stepping into a 1,649cc inline 6-cylinder engine, producing 160 horsepower. Read that one more time. 160 horsepower. The Goldwing's Flat 6 makes roughly 126 horsepower at the crank. BMW's 6-cylinder makes substantially more power, for substantially less money, in a chassis that handles like nothing Honda has ever bolted together. So what exactly were you paying the Goldwing's $30,500 for, if a German 6-cylinder makes more power for less? When you've spent 2 decades convincing yourself that Honda's Flat 6 was the smoothest engine in motorcycling, do you really want to throw a leg over the K1600 GT, feel that turbine pull from 6,500 RPM onward, and walk back to the Honda? The K1600 GT also brings electronic suspension, 6 riding modes, keyless ride, optional adaptive cornering headlight, the optional active cruise control with radar, and a comfortable enough seat that BMW veterans put 40,000-mile touring seasons on these bikes without flinching. The trade-off is real. The K1600 is heavier in low-speed handling than the R1300 RT further down this list. It does not have the double wishbone front suspension trick that makes the Goldwing feel impossibly light at parking lot speeds. The seat is firmer than the Goldwing's, which some riders love and others hate after the first 300-mile day. But once you're on the road, you have a German inline 6 that costs $3,615 less than a Japanese flat 6 and makes substantially more power. And then there's the bagger sibling, the 2026 BMW K1600B at $24,975 MSRP that gives you the same 160 horsepower engine in a fully equipped bagger configuration for $5,525 less than the Goldwing Tour DCT. And if you want the full luxury treatment, the K1600 GTL at $29,995 MSRP delivers a top case, adaptive headlight, seat heating, and full long-haul comfort. Still $505 less than the Goldwing Tour DCT, and $3,805 less than the Tour Airbag DCT. BMW has effectively undercut the Goldwing at every tier of the touring market with the same six-cylinder platform. And the next bike on this list isn't an inline-six or a V-twin. It's the alternative for the rider who looks at a fully dressed Goldwing and sees a sofa with handlebars. Rival number 3, BMW R1300 RT. For some of you watching, the Goldwing has never been the right bike. Not because the bike is wrong, because you're wrong for it. You want long-distance comfort. You want luggage. You want weather protection. But you also want a motorcycle that can actually attack a canyon road when you find one. And a fully loaded, full-dress tourer always feels like dragging an apartment behind you. Enter the 2026 BMW R1300 RT, launched for this model year as a complete redesign of the touring boxer. MSRP, $22,495. That's not a typo. That's $8,500 less than the Goldwing Tour DCT. The new 1,300cc air and liquid-cooled boxer twin produces 145 horsepower at 7,750 RPM and 110 pounds-feet of torque at 6,500 RPM, thanks to BMW's shift cam variable valve timing, which gives you the low-end pull of a touring engine and the top-end rush of a sport bike from the same camshaft profile. Dry weight is 584 pounds. Read that against the Goldwing's 806 pounds and tell me which one carves a switchback better. Over 220 pounds of difference between these two bikes is not a footnote on a spec sheet. That is a different conversation about what touring even means in 2026. The R1300 RT comes standard with a 10.25-inch TFT display, dynamic cruise control, riding assistant with optional radar-based active cruise control, frontal collision warning, lane change warning, and the Evo telelever front suspension that has spoiled adventure riders for a decade. Evo paralever rear shaft drive eliminates chain maintenance for the life of the bike. Optional automated shift assistant delivers clutchless shifts comparable to Honda's DCT, but at less weight and complexity. 3 standard ride modes: Rain, Road, Eco, with optional Dynamic and Dynamic Pro for the rider who wants more edge. So when you walk into the dealership at 48 years old with a back that's starting to talk to you on long rides, and the salesman points you at the Goldwing, are you sure the answer is full-dress luxury? Or are you actually shopping for a sport tourer that can still hustle on a back road and saves you $8,000 at the same time? The R1300 RT isn't trying to be the Goldwing. It is trying to be the bike a Goldwing owner secretly wishes they'd bought instead. And it's worth noting that even fully optioned with the radar package, premium audio, heated seats, expanded luggage, and the comfort passenger package, a generously spec'd R1300 RT lands in the mid-$30,000 range, meaning that even loaded, the BMW lands close to a base Goldwing while offering a completely different riding character. And the last bike on this list is the one that Honda's sales team has been quietly watching with concern, because it's stealing Goldwing intenders at the price point where the math becomes impossible to ignore. Rival number 4, Indian Challenger Limited. The 2026 Indian Challenger Limited carries an MSRP of $27,999. That's $2,501 less than the Goldwing Tour DCT. And you're walking out with what is arguably the most modern American bagger ever built. The 1,768cc Power Plus 108 liquid-cooled V-twin produces 122 horsepower and 128 pound-feet of torque. Sitting inside a cast aluminum frame with an inverted fork, dual front Brembo brakes, 3 ride modes, and a chassis-mounted fairing that actually works at speed. 18-plus gallons of weatherproof saddlebag storage, electronically adjustable windscreen, 7-inch ride command display with turn-by-turn navigation and Apple CarPlay, Smart Lean with a 6-axis Bosch IMU, cruise control, keyless ignition, tire pressure monitoring. So when a buyer walks into a multi-brand dealer in 2026 with $28,000 in financing approved and asks for a touring-capable American motorcycle, what does the salesman put them on? The 7-year-old Sportster replacement that Harley is still struggling to differentiate, or the Indian that beats the Goldwing on price and gives them a liquid-cooled V-twin with King of the Baggers race pedigree? That is the math the showrooms have already done. The Challenger Limited is the bike that's quietly pulling the most direct Goldwing trade-ins of any model in the segment, because the buyers crossing over aren't downgrading from a tourer to a bagger. They're trading a clinical Japanese flagship for an American bagger that gives them aggressive style, modern technology, real torque at the rear wheel, and $2,500 back in their pocket on day one. And if you want to step up to the Challenger Limited 112 with the 1,834cc engine, 126 horsepower, and 133 pound-feet of torque, the trim sits at around $32,499 MSRP, still $1,300 less than the Goldwing Tour Airbag DCT and delivering more power at the rear wheel. Is that $2,500 going into a tour pack and a backrest? Into chrome? Into the kind of windshield and saddlebag upgrades that make a bagger genuinely two-up capable? Or is it staying in the bank account where the Goldwing premium would have evaporated into depreciation by the 24-month mark? Whatever the answer is, it's a question the buyer didn't have to ask when the Goldwing was unchallenged. In 2026, every dealer knows that question is now part of every touring conversation. So, when is the 2026 Honda Goldwing still the right answer? When you ride two-up every weekend, 400-mile days, and your passenger demands the trunk, the heated seat, and the airbag option that no other touring bike on this list offers as a factory feature. When you want the lowest center of gravity in touring, the smoothest engine in the segment, the lightest feeling 800-pound bike in motorcycling, and a Honda dealer network that exists in every state in the Union, the Goldwing is still the right bike for the rider who values clinical perfection above all other variables, who reads spec sheets the way other people read mystery novels, and who is willing to write the check that comes with that obsession. It is still arguably the most refined motorcycle ever produced. But most refined is not the same as best value. And in 2026, the difference matters more than it used to. If you value torque, you go to the Indian Pursuit Limited. If you value horsepower and German six-cylinder engineering, you go to the BMW K 1600 GT. If you value athleticism, low weight, and sport touring credibility, you go to the BMW R 1300 RT. And if you value pure American bagger style with race-bred torque and money left over, you go to the Indian Challenger Limited. 4 bikes, 4 reasons the Goldwing's $30,500 is no longer the automatic answer it used to be. And there's one more variable nobody at the Honda dealership wants to bring up at the contract table: depreciation. The Goldwing's premium pricing has historically been defended by the assumption that Honda holds value better than the competition. The current resale data tells a different story. Touring Hondas are softening at the 24 and 36-month marks faster than they used to, partly because Indian has flooded the used market with off-lease Challengers and Pursuits that now compete head-to-head with year-old Goldwings, and partly because BMW's premium nameplate has earned its own resale floor that didn't exist a decade ago. The buyer who paid $30,500 for a 2024 Goldwing Tour DCT is now watching that bike trade at a number that no longer looks like the safe investment the dealer described at the contract table. So when you finance a new Goldwing Tour DCT at $30,500 today, what is the bike actually worth on the used lot in 36 months? And if that gap is closing every year, was the premium ever really there? The Goldwing premium used to be defended by 3 pillars: bulletproof reliability, dealer network, and resale value. The reliability argument is mostly still intact. The dealer network is still strong, but the resale leg of that tripod is wobbling for the first time in the bike's history. And once a resale story breaks, it tends not to come back quickly. Here's the bigger question the industry is going to have to answer in the next 2 years. If the Gold Wing is no longer the segment's automatic winner, and the dealer trade-in data already shows touring buyers diversifying across brands at a rate Honda has never seen before, then what does Honda actually do with the platform next? Do they cut the price to defend market share? Do they push the airbag and the active safety tech further to justify the premium? Do they finally add radar-based adaptive cruise to match what BMW and Indian already offer? Or do they accept that the Goldwing, like the luxury sedan market it sometimes resembles, is becoming a niche flagship instead of a default? The touring buyer of 2026 is more informed, more cross-shopped, and more skeptical of brand loyalty than the touring buyer of 2016. He has YouTube, he has forums, he has spec sheets pulled up on his phone at the dealership, while the salesman is still talking. And he knows that the Gold Wing is no longer the only answer. Drop your touring trade-in story in the comments. Tell me what you rode before, what you're shopping now, and what made the difference. Because the next decade of touring motorcycles is going to be written by exactly that decision. And the bike sitting in your garage right now is part of the answer.